He thrust open the stable gate, the hinges screeching amid the raging tempest. A colossal figure twisted in the sodden hay, shoulders as wide as a pair of oak beams. Her back bore the scars of cruel whiplashes. When she raised her gaze, the amber eyes of a Navajo guardian caused Ronan to clench the lantern handle more firmly. She measured at least 7 feet in height, exceeding 2 meters and 10 centimeters. Robust and corded with sinew, even in her fatigue. "Keep your distance." Her tone was fractured by ragged inhalations and the piercing frost. Ronan did not retreat, yet he refrained from drawing his pistol as well. He observed the severed ropes, the ragged gashes at her wrists, and the subdued fire of resolve flickering in her stare. "This is my property," Ronan stated deliberately. "I seek no conflict. Do you require sustenance?" She inclined her head, her gaze cautious like that of a pursued creature. Silence followed. Ronan set a dish of provisions upon the timbered ground, then withdrew. "If it appeals to you, partake." After an extended interval, the Navajo woman inched forward, quivering as she grasped the meal with her fingers. As Ronan averted his eyes, she murmured, so softly it resembled a breath, You will not surrender me to them." Ronan responded with a single, concise declaration, firm as unyielding granite. "I do not traffic in souls." The blizzard persisted unabated. Evening after evening, the gales battered the lodge walls as though intent on dismantling the tenuous refuge of 2 mortals. After dressing the Navajo woman's injuries, Ronan resolved to permit her residence within the lodge, not from confidence in her, but from the certainty that another evening in the outbuilding would claim her life to the chill. Tala, that was the name she uttered when Ronan inquired, reclined near the entrance, where the currents of air were most severe, her fingers ever clutching the modest dagger he had provided amid the mending. Ronan made no protest. Any soul who had endured to maturity in these frontier expanses had discerned the wisdom of heeding intuition over humanity. By the dawn of the 3rd day, the drifts had engulfed the basin beyond. The lodge had become a timbered enclosure adrift in an ocean of ivory. Ronan was stoking the hearth when Tala abruptly inquired, "Why do you harbor no afraid of me?" Ronan merely elevated his shoulders. "You possess great stature and vigor, yet the frost instills greater terror than you." This prompted Tala to regard him with bewilderment. She had met no individual who addressed a Navajo sentinel with such composure. Later that afternoon, as Ronan arranged kindling in the alcove, he remarked with mild levity, "Should this season confine us further, the villagers will commence rumors." Tala turned toward him, the edge of her lips curving into a frosty, dignified grin, the sort exclusive to a Navajo sentinel who had yielded to no one. She replied, each syllable sharp as a honed edge, "I would share repose with you and bear offspring with a common settler." Ronan laughed, utterly unperturbed. "Articulated aloud by you, indeed appears audacious." Tala emitted a dismissive snort, but upon turning aside, her gaze shimmered with an unfamiliar emotion, not scorn, but nearer to astonishment at the serenity of the figure before her. That evening, the flakes descended with renewed fury. The gusts wailed encircling the lodge, producing prolonged feral bellows. Ronan fed additional logs to the furnace and draped a heavy coverlet over Tala. "Refrain from excessive motion, lest the lesions reopen," he advised. Tala beheld him through the undulating glow of the flames for the initial instance, not with the vigilance of one poised to assail any intruder. Her question emerged tenderly, her timbre marginally lighter. "Why do you extend this mercy?" Ronan rejoined without delay, unadorned. "I permit no death beneath my roof. That suffices." Beyond, the gale continued its assault upon the frozen peaks. Within the confined abode, however, the gulf between them began to narrow, although neither would concede it. Since Tala's relocation to the lodge, every dusk unfolded identically. She slept fitfully, her respiration alternating between labored and interrupted,
at times surging alert as if to confront an unseen peril. Ronan perceived it, yet he inquired never. He did not want to lacerate a lesion she still veiled in reticence.
One twilight, as the tumult subsided somewhat, Ronan perched by the hearth, honing an edge, the conflagration etching silhouettes upon his weathered countenance. After numerous moments of quietude, it was Taylor who at last articulated, "I was not destined to conceal myself in such a modest dwelling," she declared, her vision fixed afar. "I am a defender of the Kenda lineage. From youth, I was schooled in equestrian pursuit of quarry, combat, and unyielding resolve." Ronan laid the edge aside. "Yet presently, you flee for the inaugural occasion?" She offered no retort in ire. Taylor exhaled profoundly, a gust seeming to bear the burden of vast cordilleras. "They waylaid me in solitude, bound me, bartered me across 3 settlements. Those vile figures, their gazes, I would prefer oblivion in the drifts to recapture." Ronan remained mute. Tala caressed one of the welts upon her arm. "I resisted, dispatched 1, impaired 2, but their numbers overwhelmed. They scourged me until the hilt fractured within my grasp." Ronan approached the oaken repository, retrieved a vial of botanical remedy, and deposited it in her palm. She appeared startled. "You abstain from further interrogation?" Ronan affirmed, his inflection subdued and resolute as the elm sentinel at the threshold. "Your ordeal diminishes not your fortitude. It merely affirms your profound resilience." Taylor hesitated. Her visage, accustomedly impassive as basalt, yielded briefly, a mere glimmer, yet sufficient for Ronan to discern the facet she perpetually concealed. Subsequently, as Ronan resumed his station at the hearth, Taylor resumed, her timbre hushed, almost a murmur to the embers. "None has accorded me such regard as you. None has granted sanctuary without exacting recompense." Ronan did not pivot. He merely observed. "You respire. You require shelter for sleep. That justifies it amply." Taylor contemplated him at length, her scrutiny bereft of mistrust, infused instead with an unnamed sentiment. Without, the wintry dusk began to abate. Within Taylor's spirit, however, another tempest had veered its trajectory. That midday, the firmament abruptly dimmed, though the herb had not commenced its descent. Ronan was felling timber astern of the lodge when the clamor of equine footsteps shattered the hush, swift, peremptory, laden with malice. He peered along the slender, pallid trail. 2 riders advanced directly toward the abode, as if privy to its precise locale. Ronan identified them forthwith. Calloused visages, the variety that pursued indigenous folk to sell as chattel. One proffered a mirthless leer, his utterance reeking of inferior spirits. "Greetings, Hale. Word has it you shelter substantial merchandise." Ronan erected himself, unflinching. "Gentlemen, you ought to wheel about and depart whence you originated." The second surveyed the environs, rapping his spur against the portal. "That Navajo maiden is our possession. Concealment avails you not. Our senses are keen for such pursuits." Ronan folded his arms, his timbre level and glacial as tempered iron. "She belongs to no entity." The hirsute one erupted in giggles. "In these expanses, Hale, the precept is elementary. The capture claims ownership. As you retain her, restitution is due." Ronan fixed them with an unwavering gaze. He adjusted his greatcoat aside, exposing the sidearm secured at his flank. His intonation descended, each term cleaving the ether like a maul rending lumber. "If you return, procure documents authenticated by magistrate and cleric."
He interposed a fractional pause, then intoned the culminating admonition like a visceral thrust. "Even so, I may yet dispatch you with lead." The pair faltered. In their countenances, Ronan's assurance rang no feint. It was verity, the poise of one who had interred many malefactors in this basin. They conferred mutely, then tugged their bridles and receded. The last hurled a caveat rearward. "This concludes not, hail!" As the trot receded into remoteness, the door groaned open. Taylor emerged, her form partially eclipsing the planked surface, her deep obsidian orbs quivering from the dread she had subdued. She breathed, her timber subdued, but waited with the gravity of irrevocable resolution. "If you undertook that on my behalf, then I shall remain." Ronan regarded her wordlessly, yet the deliberate inclination of his head conveyed volumes beyond utterance. In a world colder than the gelid mountains, another conflagration had ignited.
That dusk, the squall recommenced with unparalleled ferocity. The zephyrs bayed so ferociously that the edifice quaked with each onslaught, and the precipitation beyond the pane coalesced into an opaque, nebulous veil. Ronan secured the ingress firmly, then positioned a timbered seat against it, lest the blasts endeavor to wrench it asunder. The mantle blazed luminously, yet the gelidity infiltrated every fissure in the barriers. Tala reclined against the partition, her imposing silhouette quaking faintly, lesions yet unrecovered. Ronan cast supplementary fuel into the blaze, and then enveloped her in their densest coverlet. "Endeavored to preserve warmth. Such a maelstrom may endure till aurora," he counseled. Tala scrutinized him protractedly, her orbs devoid of vigilance, yet as though appraising an internal deliberation. "This locale," she indicated the coverlet, "retains frigidity." Ronan settled upon the seat proximate the flare, chafing his palms for counsel. "Endure this vigil. The climb ought to moderate by morrow." Tala persisted in her observation. Her countenance, habitually unyielding as a precipice, had mellowed, betraying exhaustion and an elusive qualm she endeavored to mask. She adjusted marginally, extending the coverlet broader. Her timbre was grave and gravelly, yet each utterance pierced the congealed atmosphere distinctly. Ample space exists. Proximity of forms generates augmented thermal retention. Ronan stiffened. He acknowledged her veracity. He had withered countless vigils in conflict entrenchments similarly, imparting vitality with allies. But this constituted no arena of strife. This encompassed a towering Navajo sentinel and a solitary homesteader. "Are you certain?" Ronan queried. Tala perverted no verbal assent. She merely imparted a subtle traction to the coverlet, an overture, composed and resolute, yet imbued with irrefutable expectation. Ronan advanced and reclined adjacent. The instant their contours converged, caloric diffused promptly. Tala's frame exuded unexpected ardor, her derm bearing the subtle aroma of timber haze and wild prairie. An anomalous security enveloped the diminutive refuge. Lapses of muteness elapsed. Then Tala oriented toward Ronan, her profound obsidian orbs mirroring the luminescence. She extended and caressed his visage delicately. "I repose faith in you." In that juncture, Ronan positioned his palm astern her nape, drawing her proximate until their mouths converged in a leisurely, fervent osculation, deliberate yet powerful enough to dissolve every stratum of frost she had erected around her essence. Upon separation, their exhalations intermingled, akin to two wisps of vaporous effluvium. Ronan murmured, "You possess perpetual sanctuary herein." And for the premier occasion, Tala inclined her crown upon his deltoid, relinquishing every bulwark she had maintained.
The season at length relented its clasp. Initial rivulets of thawed ivory cascaded down the inclines, revealing moist umbered terrain and quivering sprigs of nascent verdure under the matutine radiance. Ronan's house, sequestered in alabaster for innumerable heptades, now appeared to resurface into vitality. Ronan unlatched the portal prematurely, embracing the first clemency of vernal zephyrs.
Yet this dawn, ere he could egress, he beheld Tala upon the veranda, her expansive deltoids nigh occluding the frame. She contemplated her palms, then gradually aligned one vast manus over her midriff, an unadorned motion, yet ample to halt Ronan abruptly. "Are you well?" he solicited, his inflection innately tempered. Tala pivoted to him, her orbs no longer vehement as in nascent epochs, but profounder, more serene. She clasped Ronan's manus and situated it upon her abdomen. His appendage seared. Her torso emanated an anomalous luminous caloric. "A progeny resides," Tala enunciated measuredly. As though each term constituted an oath, Ronan immobilized for fleeting instants. All he had contemplated, all he had forborne to envision, surged concurrently. Yet ultimately, the only emanation from his lips was a grin, a scarce beam for that withered aspect. "Very well, then," Ronan affirmed, compressing her manus tenderly. "We shall necessitate expanded quarters, and I shall fabricate a bassinet, a sturdy one." Tala regarded him extendedly. So protractedly Ronan surmised she might rescind her declaration. But then she aligned her manus over his pectoral, precisely where his cardiac rhythm throbbed vigorously beneath. "I formerly condescended to you," she avowed, "deemed you frail, diminutive, unworthy of my sentinel heritage." Ronan exhaled lightly. "Indeed, I inferred as much," but Tala negated with her crown. "Now I comprehend. Authentic potency resides in steadfastness, in undaunted regard, in unexacted tribute." Ronan emitted a gravelous, subdued chortle. "That stems from my devotion to you." For the premier instance, Tala's aspect veritably mellowed. No longer a combatant, no longer a lacerated colossus, merely a female poised at the inception of her vernal epoch, she articulated softly, akin to divulging a triumph surpassing any fray. "And I choose you." The vernal gust traversed the expansive portal, subtly agitating the aged drapery. Ronan imparted another compression to her manus, then declared, "Then let us commence. Abundant labors await to erect a domicile." Tidings propagated swifter than gales across the steppe. Homesteader Ronan Hale weds a Talan Navajo sentinel. That solitary pronouncement sufficed to propel the populace of Dust Holla surging toward the modest basilica upon the eminence, where Reverend Elias customarily solemnized nuptials only for aged pallid pairs. That solar day the luminary gleamed not osmotically, but sufficiently to illuminate the ceremonial garb Tala had autonomously selected, adorned with iridescent Navajo talismans, tracing the contours of her lofty, formidable silhouette. Upon her descent from the carriage, the assembly lapsed to utter hush. Certain mandibles gaped, others recoiled in trepidation. Some murmured, "I have beheld no female of such altitude." But as Tala ascended beside Ronan, he stationed adjacent, akin to a bastion shielding a tranquil brooklet. Apprehension dissipated. What manifested was anomalous, yet profoundly aesthetic. The confluence of two essences destiny had amalgamated, akin to a merciless hibernal jest. Reverend Elias's extremities quavered as he unveiled the codex. His vision ascended to meet Tala's, nigh brushing the vaulted expanse, then descended to Ronan, the figure clasping a manus nigh twice his girth. "My child," he intoned gently, "do you affirm?" Ronan demurred not. He compressed Tala's menace, his scrutiny unwavering upon her. "She emancipated me from isolation. I merely reciprocate now, choosing to cherish her through eternity." The chamber convulsed, not in derision or ridicule, but in astonishment. None had anticipated such candor from a figure as terse as Ronan to perforce such unalloyed purity.
Then ensued Tala's juncture. She advanced, her umbra draping the timbered risers. Her timbre resounded profound and steadfast, imbued with a defender's dominion. "I elect this individual not for his superiority in might, but for his unyielding cardiac fortitude." She aligned her menace over her midriff. "And my offspring shall elect him likewise, as have I." Amen. The assembly suspended respiration. Every resonance within the basilica was engulfed by that epoch's gravity. Reverend Elias emitted a resonant clearance and proclaimed, "In the Lord's appellation, I now decree you wedded companions." Applause, equine whinnies without, all coalesced into a fervent, tumultuous festivity unprecedented in Dust Hollow. Ronan inclined downward, Tala descended further, and they osculated beneath the antiquated basilica vault that had never witnessed a romance of such singularity. That vernal term, Sagebrook Basin, transpired altered, not owing to bejourning arboreal crowns or liquefying rivulets, but because Ronan's unassuming abode now resounded with mirth, harboring a thermal essence hitherto unknown therein, kinship. Ronan positioned in the enclosure, affixing one timber beam after another for the adjunct chamber. The cadence of the mallet pealed resolute and voracious, mirroring the individual himself. Nigh to him, Tala amassed desiccated foliage. Her digits intermittently gravitated instinctively to her abdomen, where a nascent existence burgeoned subtly, diurnally. She had acclimatized to the denizen's propensity to gape upon her traversal of Dust Hollow, a Navajo sentinel surpassing 7 feet, approximating 2 meters and 13 centimeters, with thews sculpted akin to summit granite, but her orbs conveyed unanticipated clemency. Explication proved superfluous. Her election gleamed as distinct as impressions imprinted in yielding loam. "You ought to repose momentarily. Breezes intensifying," Ronan suggested, relinquishing the beam. "I fare adequately," Tyler rejoined, though she interposed sufficiently for him to ascertain her thermal state. His menace lingered upon his deltoid, modest yet resolute. "Inadequate, by my metric, constitutes exigency," Ronan averred. Tyler yielded a subdued chortle, erstwhile infrequent. Her merriment had evolved into accustomed resonance upon that veranda. "Since when did you acquire such obstinacy?" "Likely concurrent with my union to a female capable of elevating me unilaterally," Ronan jested. Tyler chortled anew, then stooped to imprint his frontal bone. She articulated sparingly, but each motion conveyed a tenderness a sentinel such as she withheld from external realms.
Crepuscle arrived. Aureate radiance cascaded akin to nectar across the undulations. Taylor emerged upon the veranda and surveyed the expansive basin, once a domain she had fled, nigh devoured by a savage hibernation. Now the zephyrs cavorted banally through her tresses. Ronan approached posteriorly, encircling her waist with his limbs. "What do you behold?" he queried. Taylor refrained from pivoting. She merely sustained her vigil upon the Empyrean, as though discerning her totality unfurling upon the remotest verge, her timber grave, steadfast as monolith and terrain. "This domain feels proximate," Ronan solicited softly. "Proximate to what?" Taylor superimposed her potent menace over his, imparting a muted compression. "Proximate to you, proximate to tranquility, proximate to hearth." The unpretentious abode at the declivity's base effulged with pyrrhic radiance. effluvium spiraled aloft, ascending into the vernal zephyr akin to a beacon. A male, erstwhile a solitary homesteader. A female, a colossal Navajo once pursued and dreaded. They traversed no longer. They had hewn a sanctuary of serenity for themselves, where hibernation prevailed not, where antecedents no longer shackled, where progeny burgeoned within Taylor, and a novel destiny inscribed progressively, diurnal. Affection constitutes no grandiose, resplendent prodigy. It embodies the subdued tenacity of two essences intrepid enough to confront their intrinsic apprehensions. It promises no bulwark against tempests, yet furnishes a locus to endure when tempests assail. True devotion pursues not the perfect entity. It elects the one who perceives us marred, cicatrized, and untamed, and persists nonetheless. In these untrodden realms where mortals oft mislay themselves, affection emerges as the only lodestar of consequence, simple, modest, yet eternally directing us hearthward. It is a privilege to host you. I earnestly aspire you sustain elation and security eternally. I cherish you, my esteemed auditors of frontier narratives. Convey your sentiments regarding this chronicle in the annotations beneath. Inscribe unity if it delighted you.